So, how would you like to learn how to sell from a woman who went from being broke to making over $230,000 in 6 months? And on top of that, who went from hating sales so much that she literally was ripping pieces of paper apart, writing, I effing hate sales over and over and over again, to absolutely loving sales, feeling comfortable, confident, at ease. You're going to hear all of that in her story today. My guest today is a repeat guest, one of my first return guests on the podcast, Allyson Chavez. If you listen to episode 60 of the podcast when it was previously called Instant Impact, you heard her there. It was one of the most popular, most downloaded episodes that we had. And I think part of it is she has such a unique and really insightful just approach to money and wealth creation and sales, as you're going to hear today. And she's created a company and a brand called the Prosperity Approach. So as we talk, you're going to want to learn more about her, and she shares how to connect with her at the end here. She's literally just transformed so many lives, including my own, being friends with her. We connected at in a coaching program. We've become friends. We're now accountability partners. And every time I talk with Allyson, I feel lighter. I feel relieved. I feel like I have so much clarity and insight into what I need to do next and how to think about something differently. And frankly, how to get out of my own way, how to stop giving myself BS excuses that we can all give sometimes, and how to have a bigger vision, how to hold a bigger vision for myself. And I wanted to have her on the show as one of our first guests for the podcast under its new brand, She Sells Radio, because I think when I think of who is the epitome of what She Sells is all about, it is Allyson. And she is somebody who embodies just fierce goal achievement and attainment while also really honoring all of who she is and bringing so much of her beautiful feminine energy into it. And so I had to have her back on. And so, of course, she graciously said yes. And here she is. And I think there's really two key areas we go into on today's interview that are going to be really helpful for you. You know, I can't have an Allyson interview without talking about money mindset and how money works. And so she's going to share with you the mental shifts that took her from being in debt to bringing in over $230,000 in 6 months. She had very significant, yet surprisingly, I think you'll find them fun and easy mental shifts and exercises she did that helped her step into just a totally new place, a new level with her wealth creation. So we talk about the mindset, the energy of money and wealth. And frankly, that's 95% of this whole game. But, you know, I got to give you some strategy as well. So we get into sales. I think a couple of key things. We do some really incredible kind of deep dive sales training here, but a couple of key things that really stood out to me that you'll learn are how to first give yourself permission to stop trying to make everyone your client. If you feel a need to convince, to push, to force when you're on your sales calls, you don't have to do that. And she's going to teach you how to stop doing that. She also gives you a really easy outline for how to have a beautiful, engaging, easy closing conversation. And I was writing it down word for word while she talked because it gives you the ability to be with someone and be so present while you are having that closing conversation with them, and also help them take action in their highest good, in favor of their highest good. And she's going to share how to start loving your sales calls. If you've been kind of dreading them or feeling relief when a prospect doesn't show up on a call, you know, if you have that kind of pit in your stomach when you're going into the sales conversation, you're going to want to hear what she has to say about that. And if you are looking to up-level your sales game, I invite you, check out my new weekly sales accelerator. I created this with the intention of creating an easy, on-demand sales training platform where you can really pick and choose what you feel like you need to learn, whether it's our upcoming training as I record this on how to sell the feminine way, which is really unlocking your secret sales superpower, or maybe it's something more tactical about closing, objection handling, prospecting. I am building this out as we go, sister, and I invite you to join me on our upcoming trainings. So they're super cost effective. It is on demand. Like I said, pick what you need. You can go to elisearcher.com/training to get registered for the next upcoming training. And you can also purchase past recorded ones there. as well. So get yourself hooked up with some good resources and support in this area. And think of this interview today with Allyson as a great sales mini masterclass. You're going to learn so much from her. I always do. And I am just so excited for you to get to learn from none other than the incredible Allyson Chavez. Here we go. Allyson, welcome to She Sells Radio. It's such a fun reunion for me of having you back. You were on episode 60. And like I was telling you in the pre-chat, it was one of the most popular episodes. I should say it was episode 60 of the former podcast before it was rebranded as She Sells Radio for anyone who goes and tries to find it. Episode 60 of the Instant Impact podcast. But oh my gosh, it was phenomenal and people wanted you back and I wanted you back. So welcome. We're so excited to have you.
You know what? An honor. What a privilege to be back. You are one of my most favorite people in the entire world. And when you reached out, I was like, yeah, let's do this like now. And can we continue all the time?
All the time.
So thank you.
And if you're listening on your podcast player, you should go check out the YouTube video of this as well, because Allyson's hair is always amazing. And I was telling her, as a new mom, I haven't washed mine in like 4 days. So I have the really slicked back ponytail. I tried to make it look like it was wet, but it's really probably just greasy. But Allyson's hair is fabulous. I feel like it's part of your brand, like this fabulous red mane. So just a shout out. People should go watch the video too.
You know, you were so funny because you were like, you brought your hair. And I'm like, I bring it because it just comes with me everywhere I go and it just kind of insists. And so it's like, it's Big Hair Wednesday or Big Hair Thursday or any day of the week. It's just big hair that day. And I go with it. So.
Oh my gosh. I need to borrow some. I'm in like the shedding part of postpartum now. And did I tell you about my George Washington hair? I don't know if I...
No.
I'm totally derailing this podcast interview. So let me apologize to everyone. But so I thought, you hear about women losing some hair after having a baby. And I thought, oh, it won't happen to me. I've got kind of fine hair to start. I thought, God won't take away more hair. I think it was last week I was in the shower and I happened to look at myself in the mirror and I've got this like amazing receding hairline. And I noticed it on one side. It's like this massive widow's peak, but then I look and it's on the other side too. So I've strategically covered it up, but I literally look like George Washington right now. So anyway.
You really don't at all. And at least you got to know when you're like, God won't do that. You are basically, he's just saying challenge accepted whenever you do that. So start like doing things like, God would never give me $1 million. And then like, use that to your advantage for crying out loud.
So speaking of an abundance of hair, let's talk about an abundance of money, which is what you help people with. Yes. So if someone if our listener did not hear your interview on episode 60 previously, tell us a little bit about kind of how you got into the work you do now. I think your personal story is so fascinating and you have the most, when we see someone who's achieved a level of success like you have, it's easy to think, well, it's always been that way for them. And part of what I love about your story is that you've been through a lot of different kind of money, I don't know what we call it, money lifetimes, or just like experiences where you've probably experienced most anything someone could experience when it comes to money and prosperity. And so tell us about kind of your backstory and how you got into the work that you do now.
I think short of homelessness, I've experienced like the whole gamut of money on the scarcity side. And now we're tilting more on the prosperity side, which I personally really recommend over the scarcity. It's a whole lot more fun and a whole lot more expansive. But I've been a mentor for the last 18 years. And 8 years ago, I was prompted to leave the company that I had been with and to create my own online mentoring company. And I did that. I've always been really ambitious, really goal oriented, really like super optimistic. That's just my nature. And so I jumped into this online business having no idea how to do it. And within 2 years, I had scaled to multiple six figures. Now, having said that, let me tell you that it was one of the most terrible, terrifying, heart-wrenching, agonizing experiences of my adult life. And because I didn't have the right mindset behind it, I didn't have the right beliefs to sustain growth that quickly, much less be able to like continue to scale my business. And so I showered in self-doubt all day, every day. I second guessed everything that I did. I have a strong work ethic, but we live in this masculine world. And so it was always like, do more, work harder, work longer, just keep pounding the pavement, do whatever you have to do. I was exhausted all the time. I thought I was operating in a little bit of overwhelm. And I had a mentor that said, oh, honey, you are operating in flat out breakdown. And I was like, oh, that's what that is. Like, so me crying over on the weekends in the fetal position, like almost every weekend, like that's not actually normal, nor is it healthy. Like, please let me paint the picture of the reality of what it actually was. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And it wasn't pleasant. I didn't like the experience. In fact, I remember thinking to myself, if this is what it's like to be an entrepreneur, why does anybody want to be an entrepreneur? This is awful. I'm in anxiety all day long. I'd put on 40 pounds in 4 years because I was so terrified of falling, and our body wants to support us. So what better way to cushion my fall than 40 extra pounds on my butt, right? I had a love affair with peanut M&Ms and my Costco card. And so that's where I was. And because I didn't have the correct belief system and I didn't have the mental strength to sustain that, after about 2 years, 3 years, my business began to fall apart. And the harder I worked, the harder it fell. And about August of 2018 was what I lovingly refer to as financial Armageddon. And that was like, I like to paint people this picture. So like, imagine this dystopia society where just, World War III has just ended, and it's sepia toned and there's sulfur clouds like coming up off the ground, and here's my hair and it's just everywhere, and I'm in these rags and I'm like, why? So like that's how it was. If you can't tell, I have a bit of a flair for the dramatic.
Not dramatic at all.
No one accuses me of being a wallflower, I'll tell you that. But what it translated to was we were $150,000 in debt. 90 grand of it was on consumer credit cards, all in the name of my business. We were $1,500 behind in our bills every month. We were knocking pretty hard on the door of Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And I felt like the world's biggest loser and the world's greatest failure. And on one hand, if it were just me, single me, that created this disaster, that was one thing. But I'm married. I've been married for 24 years. We have 4 children. There were 5 lives that were directly impacted by my failure to create success and to maintain success. And so it was all day, every day. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you tried. Who do you think you actually were? You're a fraud. You're an imposter. Look at how you hurt the ones you love. Like it was brutal, that the mental attack that was going on inside. And, I have a fairly decently sized life insurance policy. And it got to the point where it was a daily battle of, you're worth more dead than alive. And your family's going to be better. Like it was a really dark and scary time, Elise. And I came to a point where I was just tired. I was like, okay, obviously I can't do this. Obviously. And I've wrapped up my worth and my value in the financial success of my business. So that's one thing that I would just caution your audience against, is that the level of success in your business has absolutely nothing to do with your intrinsic value. They are completely separate things. And I realized too that I fully created the disaster that we were in. And I knew that I had made it harder than it was. I'd gotten in my own way and I didn't know how to fix it. All I knew is that I wanted to feel better, and I wanted to feel better in like 2-minute increments. And so I told my husband, Jeremy, one time, I was like, you know what? My business has made me bipolar and quasi-suicidal. So I need to shelf this for just a little while and like get my bearings. And so I put it on the side burner. It was still barely limping along, barely. I had a couple of clients here and there, and I have high integrity. So I was still showing up and serving them to the best of my ability. But I side hustled it as much as I could. And I got a full-time job in shipping and receiving. I got a part-time job as a crossing guard, and I got to work. right here in my mind. And I thought, okay, I know that there is a thing to mindset. I know that there's a thing to manifesting and universal laws, and I'm kinking it up somewhere. And so let's do something, like let's pick something that feels impossible to manifest, and let's see if I can use my thoughts to manifest it. And let's make it something that if I fail, it doesn't mean we won't be eating for a week, because that's what I turned my business into, this life or death sort of a thing. So I actually onboarded my family at the end of August, and I was like, let's just do this fun thing, because life sucks so hard right now because we have no money. Let's just do something for fun, and let's just see if it works. And so, everybody picked something different that they wanted to see if they could manifest by the end of the year. So again, this is the end of August 2018. See if we could get it by the end of December. And I wanted to take our family on a trip to Hawaii. And my mind told me, first of all, that's irresponsible. That is reckless. That's stupid. You have no right to do this. You can't even feed your family. And now you're going to take them to Hawaii, of all places, for a week over Christmas? What is wrong with you? So like, that's what was going on in my mind. And I was like, yeah, I know it's stupid. I know I'm stupid. I know it's irresponsible and reckless, and I don't care. I'm taking my family to Hawaii. And everybody else picked something different. And within 90 days, every single one of us had manifested what we wanted. And it was fun, and it was joyful, and there was so much ease, and there were so many miracles that came in. And I had a very strong impression when we got home from Hawaii that I needed to jot down exactly what I did in my thinking in order to create that, because I'm not subconsciously or unconsciously successful. Like highly successful people run a different set of beliefs from the masses. And so they're just like, I don't know. I just know it's going to work. And so whatever I do works. And I'm like, well, what about for the rest of us mere mortals on this planet where we don't operate that way, which you actually can. You just got to learn how to do it. And that's what I teach you to do. But I was like, I want to rinse and repeat this. And I don't want to just accidentally manifest, because most people accidentally manifest. They're like, I don't know what I did. I just kind of relaxed and then it came, but they can't rinse and repeat those results. And I was like, well, I want to rinse and repeat this. And there are specific things I did. So I jotted it down step by step, and I looked at that and I was like, oh, holy crap. I just cracked the manifesting code. Holy cow, I got to teach this. Now there was one piece that I had not cracked yet, and that was manifesting money on a consistent basis. So you can use universal laws like the law of attraction, and you can do some sort of like unconscious, non-deliberate manifesting and get some windfalls occasionally. But if you want that consistent income monthly, it requires a higher level of mastery in your thinking than just like pulling on the law of attraction. And so our money, like we were breaking even in our money, but we weren't getting ahead. And so we were still going into bankruptcy. And so I remember that next year in February, I was like, you know what? The money is still not coming in. We're actually spending more than we're making every month. This is not fiscally responsible for me to keep doing this anymore. I think we're going to have to close the doors. And so that was February. In March, I learned two things. I learned how money actually works on a vibrational and a spiritual level. And I learned how to change my subconscious beliefs. That was March. In April, I started practicing. Well, I practiced through March and April. In May, we made $15,000. In June, we made $23,000 in a week. In July, I made 40. In the span of 6 months, I went from 8 clients to 97 and went from bankruptcy to $232,000 cash in our bank account.
I get chills. I get chills. Like, mic drop.
Right? Right? Boom, walk away.
That's it. Except we need to know how you did it.
Yes. Yes. And since I do live on this planet, and I am a work in progress, and I don't seek to be anybody's guru. I just am farther down this financial path than a lot of people are now. But make no mistake, it wasn't so long ago that I was probably behind where most of you are. I sat down and I reverse engineered what I did, the inner game that I played through those 6 months, because again, it was fun. There was so much ease. There was so much flow. There were so many miracles, but there were also what I like to call butt clenching moments. There were lots of butt clenching moments when I'm following the nudges and it says, reach out here. oh, are you serious? Like, oh, seriously? And so it was, there were plenty of those experiences, but they're necessary. So just so you all know, if you're wanting to break through six figures, that is a necessary part of it, because it's part of your up-leveling in who you are. It's a part of up-leveling in your identity, and it's necessary. But it's fun, it's thrilling, especially the component that I bring in that most people don't is the God component, or your higher power. And when you will harness the power of your mind and then leverage the power of the universe, it allows you to stop doing the heavy lifting, and you get into a lot of play. You get into a lot of that feel good. And that's about playing the inner game to win instead of playing the inner game not to lose. And we're taught to play the inner game not to lose. We're actually not even taught the inner game. We're just like, strategy. Somehow it's got to work. And I got to the point where I was like spaghetti against the wall, and I'm just like throwing it like, please, Lord, let one of them stick. And you don't need that. You need the right inner game strategies, because when you have the correct inner game strategies, the outer game strategies are delivered to you, and they will work.
Which is
then it's
Ahead.
beautiful.
Yeah. And that's part of why, that's part of why I'm so glad to have this conversation, because I know for myself, as someone who was in corporate for years and years, and then went into sales coaching in a company that was predominantly, male leadership. And I really think the conversation, what's very interesting to me, especially as it pertains to sales for women, is this almost kind of the dynamic and the balance between the linear, like you said, like, it's the hard work, it's the structure, versus the feminine, which is non-linear and is quote unquote unreasonable. And so part of my mission is to help redefine that, and to help women in sales learn how to balance both of those and be supported by the masculine and the structure without cutting off their intuition. Yes. So there's 20 things I want to ask you about from what you said before. So let me try to remember them. But one of the things I've been writing a couple of things down as you talk, for you said one of the things you learned was how money actually works on an energetic and vibrational level. I know it could be a full day masterclass, but if you can, if you can, in a succinct way, how does it work?
Well, first and foremost, money is energy. Money is currency. Currency is energy. Money is energy. And so energy is here to expand. We live in this universe that is a living, vibrant, intelligent thing. And energy is also intelligent and living. And this universe is one of expansion. And so we are here to grow. We are wired for expansion. We're wired for increase. And money is a tool that assists in our growth. And so it's why, and I love your audience of women entrepreneurs, because I know they're ambitious. I know they've got a great work ethic. They've got big dreams, and they're not afraid to put the hours in, because that is required. But there is this, there's this sense of we just gotta work and work and work and work. And we don't, first and foremost. But it's like when you hit your goal, or whatever level that you're shooting for, if you don't pretty quickly set your sights on that next level, you start to get restless. You start to get despairing, depressed, bored, listless, and very quickly you move into self-destruction and self-destructive habits if you're not continually shooting for something higher, because we are wired for increase. We're wired for growth. We're wired for expansion. So if you have anybody in your life that's like, why can't you just be happy with all the success you've had? It's because we're not wired to be happy with the level that we're on, because there's always more. And we don't go after more for the sake of going after more. It's because it allows us fuller expression. It allows us to receive greater joy, and it allows us to serve people in a bigger way and to a deeper level. And so money is here to assist with that. It has to have a purpose in order to come. But most people go immediately off the rails because the purpose they give money is safety and comfort and security. and money will never fill that purpose. It's not designed to. It's like expecting Sprite to quench your thirst. Sprite doesn't have the properties to quench your thirst. It looks exactly like water, especially if you leave it on the counter and all the bubbles have evaporated out of it. But it doesn't matter what you do differently before you drink that Sprite, it's never going to quench your thirst. As a matter of fact, it's designed to make you thirstier for more Sprite. And money's the same way. It does not satisfy that deep soul need and requirement we have for that safety and that security. That's not a need that it fills. Now, on a surface level, it absolutely does. Like if I had the choice between not having money and being able to pay my bills with ease and joy, then that's what I would choose every time. So there is an amount of security that comes from knowing that whatever surprise life hands me, we're going to be able to meet that financially because we have that. However, on a deep, deep level, it doesn't fill that need. Money is a channel, and people have made money their source. And that's where people continually chase after money. They chase after it and chase after it. In fact, I remember long before I learned all of these laws and what I'm teaching people now, I lived like most people, hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, too much month left at the end of my money. And I remember in bed, laying in anxiety in the middle of the night going, what if we can't make the van payment? What are we going to do? We got to get more money. I got to have more jobs. There was a time when I was working 4 part-time jobs and raising 4 small children because I'd made money my source. And then we're making a ton of money. And I understand a ton is relative, but 20,000 a month, it really is life-changing money. Mm-hmm. And I was lying in bed awake in anxiety every night going, oh no, what have you done? You've created a lifestyle for your family that they expect to maintain. And what if you can't maintain this? What if you can't sustain this and you lose everything? What are you going to do? And then because your results will always match your subconscious beliefs, that's exactly what happened. And once the dust settled and in a moment of clarity, I thought, oh, this is really interesting because I was in anxiety when we had no money. And I was in anxiety when we had plenty of money. I don't think money's the common denominator of this anxiety here. I think I am the common denominator of this anxiety. And what I'd realized was I'd made money my source. I'd made money my God. I lived and died by the bank account. Most people live and die by the bank account. Oh, bank account says we can't do it. We can't do it. We just got to tighten the belt. We got to go without. We got to sacrifice. We got to rice and beans it. We got to have no fun because the bank account says we can't do it. That's making money your God. It's making money your source. Your connection to whatever your higher power is. My vocabulary is God or Heavenly Father. If yours is universe or infinite intelligence, whatever your higher power is to you, you got to make that your source. Because when you connect to that as your source, that is you being connected to infinite supply, limitless supply. And so now money becomes a channel. So if you have a client that doesn't renew, or you have a business you're having a hard time getting off the ground, or you have a layoff that happens, these are just channels. If you're continually connected to infinite supply, you just know, I'm just going to dig another channel and more money's going to come. And that's what gives you that soul deep security and comfort that we need by connecting to the proper source. So that is a very long explanation for a very short question about how does money work vibrationally.
That's
how it
amazing.
Works.
Yeah. And it's such a different mindset and mentality from what we are taught in either our corporate sales training, or I think just any sort of money sales related training we find that's some of the better known stuff out there. Because I do remember, earlier in my career and even up until I would say maybe a couple years ago or even 18 months ago, feeling a level of panic when a client would cancel who was a lot of my income. I mean, I think for me, it helped when, 2.5 years ago, I lost everything when I had a very sudden exit from a company that I wasn't expecting. And I had to realize that's not my source, but it took a while to relax into that. And one of the things I want to find out about from you piqued my interest when you said, actually, let me preface this with, I want to teach the woman listening to trust herself. And that is because that's been one of my own personal journeys, is having to learn to
Mhm.
trust myself.
Yes.
And trust yourself with money, with clients, with your business, with your decisions. When you were, you were deeply in debt and you set the goal to go to Disney World and your brain said, that's so irresponsible. That's, you can't do that. Talk to us about how you still trusted yourself that that was the right decision. How did you end up, I guess, kind of suppressing that voice, that self-doubt,
Ah,
to take
yes.
action?
Yes. So it was Hawaii, not Disney World, although
I'm
we do
sorry.
love
Oh,
Disney
why
World and
did
we've
I?
manifested
It's
Disney World
because you're a
too.
Disney. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I'm
know.
a
It's
huge Disney fan, so I understand where you went with
yeah.
that for
Thank you.
sure.
Thank
Um,
you.
but just for clarity, it was Hawaii.
Hawaii. Yes.
Um, so I acknowledged it and I agreed with it, and I just didn't care.
Ooh.
Yep. I'm irresponsible. Yep. I'm reckless. And ladies, like my daughter was in dance and in piano, and I talked to both of her teachers and I was like, we just can't do this. I'm so sorry. We're going to have to take her out, which broke my heart. But like, if it was dance or dinner, we had to have groceries,
Yeah.
and both of them scholarshiped her in. So then I've got this, like, what are people going to think? Like, sorry, we can't pay for piano lessons, but I'm taking my family of 6 to Hawaii, so like that was playing as well. And I was just like, you know what? I don't care. This is what I want. This makes me happy. And that's what my whole agenda was. Can I be happy for 2 minutes at a time rather than beating myself up and miserable and fighting to stay on this planet? I just want to be happy. And so Hawaii was my happy place. I wanted to take my whole family with me to the place that in my opinion is the closest thing that we can get to heaven on this earth. And I wanted to be in paradise with my family all at the same time. So I had a very strong purpose behind that. And I didn't care how much it cost. I didn't care that we didn't have any money. We were just going to Hawaii because that made me feel good. Like for a few moments, I would take a breath and I just imagined us there, and and it was so easy to get emotional about it. And I could feel the wind and I could feel the heat of the sun. And I was looking at the ocean and I pictured my son, who was 6 feet tall, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist and saying, "Thanks, Mom. Thanks for bringing me here. This has been so wonderful." Like I pictured that because I felt better for doing it rather than being like, "You're a sorry, sad sack of, failure," which I had been, that's what the program I had been running. It was relief. It was relief from all of that. And it was just to see, is the power of your thought a real thing? Like, can you really manifest whatever you want with your thoughts? Let's try it. Let's try it and see, with me having no idea how this is going to happen. And I just don't care how it's going to happen. I need something light. I need something fun. I need a distraction right now. And this is the most expansive, uplifting thing that I can think of in the moment. Like that's what it was. Like that was my whole agenda. And I think what we do with manifesting or with sales is that we have this chokehold on what we got to do, and I got to perform, and I got to get it right, and I have to say the right words, and I've got to be in the right energy, and I really, really need this, otherwise we can't pay the mortgage, and like all of that. And then we use manifesting, or we use our thoughts as just trying to manipulate our circumstances, which just completely tips us over. But when we'll just pull back from that and be like, okay, obviously, like this is not working the way I want it to work. Women don't want to be in that pounding and that, efforting yourselves in the ground all the time. We want to be in flow. We want to play. We want pleasure. That's what we're wired for. And so like when I made that okay to just be in that way of thinking and in that place of fantasy and imagination, that's when things change. In fact, one of the big things that my mind told me was that you're totally Peter Panning this. I hope you know that. You're just going off to fantasy land where everything works and you get to go to Hawaii even though you have no money. And I was like, yeah, I totally am. And so I remember one day very clearly, my mind said, well, just so long as you know that nothing's actually ever going to change and this is a waste of your time. And I was like, okay, that's totally fine. I don't care. I just feel better. And then like that stopped the argument of my mind. So with with your audience who is wanting to to break through into those next levels and to really nail the sales conversation, to love that whole sales conversation, when your mind is like, you have to get this perfect. Well, I'm just going to go here and I'm just going to pretend that they said yes. And it was just a really fun conversation and they paid me in full and they're a client that I absolutely love just because it makes me feel better. Like, let's just be really simple about this, ladies. Let's we live in this world where it's all about sophistication and it's all about like, we have to have everything together. We have to have all of our ducks in a row. And it's all of these masks. And I'm like, you know what? Well, I'm going to go with what Da Vinci says. And he says there is sophistication in simplicity. And so that's where I'm going to go. And I want to make it so a 5-year-old can understand what I'm talking about. Because if I can do that, then I'll understand it and I'll do it.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm not going to convolute stuff and make it all complicated. We have enough of that.
And it's usually a cover up for insecurity anyway, right? At least I know on my own part, when I do that, it's because I don't really know what the heck I'm talking about.
Right.
So I want to dig into your relationship with sales, because I love what you just shared about, what if you just, sounds like, released some pressure on yourself and went into this conversation like, oh, well, they already said yes and they paid in full, and kind of painting your ideal outcomes. And I also know, just from us being friends and you telling me this, that I think you shared at one point you hated sales, or that it was not such a positive relationship. Talk to us about that relationship and how it's evolved over the years.
I love you. It was not such a positive relationship.
It was not so positive. Do you like how I said that?
Elise, I hated sales with a white heat, burning passion, like cancer-causing heat rays in my body where sales were concerned. I hated them so much. And I remember one day, this was in January. This is in January of 2019, actually. I hated sales so much. And I'm like, I had this mentor that I was working with, and she was just like, oh, this is going to be a really, really expensive hobby, this business of yours, if you don't like wrap your head around loving sales. And I was like, I'm fully aware of that, but I still hate them so much. And she said, all right, then we need to do a write and burn. So you need to set the alarm for 10 minutes. And then you're just going to write out really how you feel about sales, and don't censor anything, and just write until that timer goes off. Then we're going to rip it up and have this whole ceremonial thing. And I was like, okay. So I'm on my living room couch and I've got my notebook and I've got my pen. And for those of you who don't know me, like, I can appreciate a well-placed swear as much as the next person. Like, sometimes something is a shitstorm and like, that's the only word that will describe it. But there are a couple of swears that I don't say. And one of them is the F word. So I have to preface this experience by saying, never say the F word.
I love this story.
So I'm sitting there, I turn on the timer and I start writing. I hate sales. I hate sales. And very quickly it turns into, I effing hate sales. And I did not write effing. I wrote the whole thing out and I'm like, they suck. I hate them. And so my pen runs out of ink halfway through this and I keep writing. I effing hate sales. They suck. They're so hard. I'm ripping through the paper and I keep writing. That timer goes off and on my notebook, like, I could clearly read, I effing hate sales, just because I was pressing so hard on the paper with this like cathartic kind of writing.
Tell us how you really felt.
Right? Like, Allyson, please don't sugarcoat this. Like, will you be real with us, please? Take off the mask for
right.
one. So like, that's where I came from. And ladies, I was closing $20,000 contracts and feeling like I sucked at sales. Every time somebody said yes, they would work with me, I wanted to say, really? Why? Like honestly, that's where I was. I hated them. I didn't feel confident. I dreaded the sales conversation. There was like palpable relief that would wash over my body in waves if somebody did not show up for a discovery call. That's how much I was averse to sales, but I'm a great performer if you hadn't caught on. And so like, I felt like I had to be in perfection and I just had to nail this. And so I was obsessed with scripts, and my first business mentor was like, I'm not giving you a script for sales. You're going to use intuition. And I'm like, oh, what the hell? Oh no, I don't think I even have intuition. No. And they were painful. I had 200 sales calls before I got my first client. It was awful. They were
Wow.
hour and a half long conversations. And I was just like, I didn't even know how to, it was, oh,
I
yeah.
want to pause you for 1 second though, because I think that's so important. How many people would have quit along the way if you had 200 sales
200,
conversations before you had your first client? So keep going, but I just want to pause on that for a
yeah.
second and highlight that, because I think you say that like it's no big deal.
Oh,
Um,
oh, Elise,
what
you
kept
bring up a
you?
really good point. Why didn't I quit? I should have
Yeah.
been smart. I
You
mean,
knew.
clearly, that was did not come naturally to me, this whole sales process and conversation. Like,
I love you.
clearly, it was terrible. Oh, it was terrible. Yeah. So like so I had to get that out. And like, so really that's where I was. It was so painful. And I was so intense with these conversations that my energy was kinking everything. I had one person that I talked to that asked me why I was yelling at them.
Ooh.
Like, really. And I was like, I'm just really intense and this is so important. Do you think I signed her? Oh, hail to the no. I didn't sign her. She was one of my first 200 no's. So yeah, and ladies, this was not me the first 6 months of my business. This was in 2019. This was last year. I'm 7 years into this and still hating sales and thinking I suck at sales. And so like clearly that needed to change, clearly, if I was going to make any sort of money and dig us out of the hole that we were in. And so when I learned how to change my beliefs, I knew that sales was definitely the first thing that I needed to change. And I needed to start claiming that I was a master of sales. I was a master of sales. I'm a master of conversions. And I convert anywhere, online, on the phone, on stage, in person, like everywhere. And I love them and they love me. And so what I realized about a sales call is that it's all about relationship. And so while a script is important to keep you on the rails and so that you're in the control of the conversation and you're not just suddenly becoming like girlfriends and you're having lunch together, which is what it was before, there were prompts that I could ask. And it was just about, okay, so here's this person who's reaching out to me, or actually I was reaching out to them at the very beginning of 2019 to see if they have a problem and if I have the solution to their problem. Like, what do they want? What's stopping them from getting it? Can I actually help them? And do they want what I have to offer? And suddenly, like, so much pressure just dropped off of me when I realized that I'm just here to see if what I offer is a good fit. They might not even want it. And if that's the case, then awesome. Because if they don't want it, I don't want them into something that they don't actually want.
Can I pause you on that too? Because
Yeah.
I think that is a lot of what, again, just kind of coming from my own background, a lot of what you're taught in corporate sales training is to you have to create the need for someone, that it doesn't really matter if they want it or not. It's like everyone needs yeah, right. And I remember being in so much stress about this, where it's kind of like you are the training that's given, at least in multiple companies I was a part of. So it wasn't just one. So I think there's a theme here, is that, your solution is the answer for everyone's problem. And if you didn't close a sale, what's wrong with you?
Oh.
And if you were better skilled, you could have closed it. And we need to send out our top closer next time. And so talk to us more about this. If somebody doesn't actually want what you have, you don't have to force them.
No. And the whole idea, that's malarkey, quite frankly.
That's so much of what's taught.
Like, seriously? So what that is manipulation. So you've got to manipulate them into saying yes to you. And here's the thing. If you have to drag them in, you will have to drag them around. And I don't want to drag anybody around. And I don't want to work with somebody who doesn't actually want what I have. Now, here's the thing. Most of the people that you're going to talk to are going to want what you offer because of the way that you position yourself, because of your messaging, because you're speaking to their pain points, you're speaking to their soul, you're in their head. And so you're going to be talking to a lot of people who really do want what you have to offer. But all right, do you want it or must you have it? So let's just see what the degree of want is here, because when you will come at sales as not as a manipulation tactic, it's why everybody hates sales, because this is what it's taught. You have to like bend their will to yours, and you have to tell them that in essence, they're never going to get what they want unless they work with you. And you have to make them feel terrible, and you have to bring up the fear and the scarcity and like, thanks, but no thanks. I want to connect them to what it is they want. I want to make them aware that the programs they're running or the habits they're in right now is not actually going to lead them to where they want to go. How badly is it that they want what they've told me they want? And what are they willing to do to get it? And here's another thing, especially you female entrepreneurs out there. Hang on, it just left. It's going to come back.
That's okay. I'm taking notes.
It will come back.
Oh, good. Yeah. You were saying, you were kind of talking about connect them to what they want, make them aware that the programs they're running aren't going to support them, see how badly they want it, and then see what it is that they're willing to do, right. To get to what they want.
Yeah. And a lot of people aren't willing to do what it takes. And so I need to see at what level they are, because a lot of people want what they want, and they can want it a lot. They can want it really passionately, but want and must are two different energies and create two different results. You can really, really want to lose weight, but unless you must lose weight, you're not going to actually take the action steps to lose the weight. You're just going to continue to want it. But when want becomes must, I must have this. I must release this weight. I must have this level of income to bless my life and my family's lives and other people's lives as well. When it becomes that must, that's a very different energy, and that has the power behind it to actually create the reality that you want. So I got to know where they are on that scale. Do you just want it, or must you have it?
So if they're on the call, this is like a little, okay. Go ahead and tell us what you were going to say. And then I've got another question for you about that.
Okay. So most female entrepreneurs look for people who can afford what they have to offer. I'm looking for people who can actually pay me for my services. And so what that does is it makes you discount your services more and more and more, because nobody can afford you. And it doesn't even matter what you price it at. You can price it at $47 and somebody's going to be like, well, if it were 20, I might do it. Because I've had that experience before. Can I just say this really fast thing? It was so funny. So I'm selling one of my mentoring programs, and somebody sent me an email and said, if it were an hour-long call every single week for $20 a month, I might consider it. But this is beyond unreasonable. So it doesn't matter what you price it at. If it's $20, somebody's going to want it for $5. And so you're not looking for people who can afford you. All right. So stop looking for people who can afford you. Look for people who will do whatever it takes to play with you on your level.
Ooh.
That's who you're looking for.
That's good.
I'm going to say it again.
Good.
Stop looking for people who can afford you and start looking for people who are willing to do whatever they have to do to play with you on your level.
Wow.
90% of my clients can't afford me. I don't care. They are willing to do whatever it takes to make the monthly payment so that they can be in this energy and this frequency and learn to think the way I think and learn to manifest the way that I do it to create the reality they want. And they make the money every month.
So on that call, if you're talking to somebody who quote unquote can't afford you and you get into it is a must for them, what are you doing? Are you helping them uncover different options for how they might find or create the money for it? Or this is something that I think is also not taught in a lot of sales training that's really useful. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that conversation sounds? Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. So I first got to see where they're on that scale of 1 to 10. So 1 to 6 is that want, and then 7 to 10 is the must. So I've got to get them to at least a 7. So wherever they're falling on that, I tell them that's great. What's keeping you from being a 10? So, and understand that, I'm not saying, what do I need to do to get you to a 10? Because that's conniving and manipulative. How about what's keeping you? Oh, well, I'm just afraid that I'm not going to have enough time, or I'm going to be overwhelmed, or this might not work for me. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, if we can address all of that where that's not a problem, I can teach you how to schedule your time better so that you're not in overwhelm. And if we can, because I teach money, if we can grow your wealth consciousness so that you're not in fear around money anymore, does that get you closer to a 10? Oh yeah, totally. All right. Where are you now? All right. I'm probably about a 10. All right. So this is something you want, right? Yes, this is something that I want. Is this something you must have? Yes, it is, because this is going to get me here. Why do you want it? So instead of me being like, well, you need this because of this and that, and I'm so great, they're now enrolling themselves. And then I can tell them, all right, well, here's the program price, and you can do a pay in full, or here's the payment plan. Which one feels easier for you to step into? Oh, those are both really big. Okay, but which one feels easier? I didn't say if it felt, really, which one could you do? Which one just feels easier? Oh, probably the payment plan. Okay, awesome. So we're looking for X amount of dollars. So do you want to have the money conversation? Yeah, let's do that, because you said you must have this. And the people that are just like spinning, oh, I don't have that kind of money. I'm like, okay, that's no problem. Why do you want this? Why must you have this? Because you just got finished telling me you're a 10, but now the money's an issue. So tell me what's going on. There's a disconnect here. Well, I just can't see how. Okay, well, are you open to accessing money? How willing are you to get uncomfortable for your dreams? Is it worth it to be temporarily tired while you're working towards the life that you've dreamed of for years, and work another job and sleep a little less for the next 5 months? Like, ladies, I was a crossing guard. I was working 4 jobs. I was cleaning an office building. I was working full time. I was working a business because I was going to do whatever I needed to do to figure out the nonsense going on in my head, and doing what I came here to do. So when somebody's like, oh, well, I just can't put that on a credit card anymore, I'm just like, but if that's the only access you have to money right now, and you're being nudged to do this, then trust that, because I'm going to teach you how to pay off that credit card really fast. And whether you decide to pay it off fast or not is totally up to you. But I'm going to give you the practical skills in order for you to be able to do that, and the mindset required to do that.
I love that. I love that. Like, I was trying to get the whole conversation written down that you were saying, and I'm going to go back and listen to that again and read through the transcript, because that conversation is just, it's so masterful. And I think that's part of where you're talking about those 200 sales calls where you got, I know, like, it's having, it is that level of experience where if you have a dream and a vision, whether you're an entrepreneur and you're starting your business, or maybe you're working with a corporation, you're in corporate sales or sales for a company, but you have a vision for, the income you want to create or the lifestyle you want to provide your family. It's that staying, I would imagine during that time you stayed close to the vision and you got in reps, right? It was like, these are my reps. These are my practice reps. These are my practice reps. And to be able to have that level of mastery in a conversation.
You know what was really interesting was that the first thing that had to happen was I had to be willing to master the sales conversation. And so I had this conversation with God one time where I had to journal stuff out, and I was like, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to add into my business in order for it to work again? And he said, you need to do sales conversations again, because you are actually really good at them, but you need the confidence and the belief in yourself that you are masterful at this. So like, those were the thoughts that came in. That's what I wrote down. And I'm like, but I hate them. And they are so hard. And the answer was, well, what if I made them easy? And what if I made them so that they were really fun and you were talking to the right people and it was something you actually looked forward to and you closed them very easily? Would you be willing to do it now? And I was like, well, I don't see how you, as the most powerful being in the multiverse, could ever make sales pleasant for me. But all right, if you're willing to do that impossible task, you who parted the Red Sea, then yes, I'm willing to do it. And like, that was the whole theme of 2019. Are you willing? Are you willing? And I said, yes, I'm willing. And he's like, all right, well then let's do this. So just start to reach out, and here are the words that you're going to say to people just to see if this is something they want. You're not going to talk anybody into anything. You're just going to be with people because people want to be seen and they want to be heard, and you're going to be present with them in the moment. And what your agenda is to serve. It's not to sell them into anything. So stay in the moment and see how you can serve, instead of being like, oh, I need to say this so that I can answer that objection. Just let's just have a conversation and let's just connect. This is just relationship. That's all this is. This is just relationship. And can you help? And do they want what you have to offer? And I've had plenty of people tell me, no, thank you. And that is 100% okay. Because if I'm in the right energy and I'm doing my part and my part only, which is to serve them, to point things out that I am observing, this is where you actually allow your intuition to come in and guide the conversation. And it's so beautiful and it's so authentic. Then if you've done your part and they say no, and you're like, man, like that felt like they were an ideal client, then I know that what has actually happened is they have literally made room for my actual ideal client to pop in, because I'm after a very specific person, and my ideal client says yes and quickly makes a decision and works with me. Like that's one of the requirements to work with me. Plus you have to love and adore me, and you have to be coachable, right? I tell people that all the time. What's not to love about me? No,
I love you. I love you.
But like, these are my recommendations, like not my requirements. These are my requirements if you're going to work with me, because I give my heart and my soul to my clients. So if I'm going to do that, you must be able to receive that. You must be coachable. You must be willing to do whatever it takes to play with me on my level and to be willing to change your life. And you got to figure it out. If you got to have that conversation with your husband, then you got to be willing to step up and have that conversation with your husband and stop acting like a 12-year-old girl asking her daddy for allowance. Like you, and I say that with so much love and compassion to people that I'm talking to, but like really that's what we've been taught in this society, is that we're so powerless and the men have the final say in everything. And that's just, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
Your man does not know your destiny, and it's not his job to know your destiny. It's your job to claim your destiny and to move through your destiny. And that's a whole other podcast, but
we'll have you back for that one. Don't worry.
I would love to
have you back for that one. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
But it's really, is this a good fit? Is this a good fit? And if you just did your part, you kept your energy clean and you were really there to serve, not to sell, then they enroll themselves and they end up saying, thank you so much. Here's my card. Like there was a point where I was like, nobody's ever going to be thanking me for taking thousands and tens of thousands of their dollars. And yet it happens all the time, every single time. Thank you so much. I am so excited to work with you. This is going to be so great. I am so scared. My butt is clenching so hard right now. And I'm like, then you're doing it right. Like, that's the sign. Let's do this. Let's make this real, and if they don't want to make it real, that's okay. Because I am really, really clear that I get what I want. And that person on the other end of the line is not my source. They're just a channel. And so I know that I am blessing their lives, not by coaching them through the call, but by pointing out those things. And then, hey, if we address this, then can we fix that? Because I used to coach everybody through calls and they're like, I don't even need you anymore. Thank you. That was so great. Thanks for the free coaching. I'm like, no, again. So, but you're not helping them when it's just free coaching. They don't have any skin in the game. But when I can observe and point those things out, see if it's a good fit and are you willing to move forward, then if they say no, that's okay. They're not my source. They're just a channel.
Yeah.
And
It's
my source.
The being attached to the what, but not the how, right? Like this is the goal. This is the target. Yeah. And it's my job to, like you talk about, follow the nudges, take the action, listen, get the divine downloads, take the next action, but you don't get to be attached to who it is and who it comes in through. Yeah.
And the how either. Like, I don't care. It can come in this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. I don't care. All I care is that it comes.
Yeah.
I don't care. And whatever way it comes, it's going to be in my highest good. And it's going to be so fun. It's going to be surprising and God's going to dazzle me and I'm going to love it.
Yeah. That was a fun lesson for me over maternity leave. That not, when you're an entrepreneur, it's not really maternity leave, but over stepping away for a couple of months from my client work I was like, okay, we'd saved some money and we were prepared for me to not make any money over a couple of months if I didn't. But money came in the most unexpected ways. And I actually came back from maternity leave, not having worked for several months. And I ended up making 50% more than I had made in the previous months each month. And I've continued to kind of stay at that level and I'm working way less. And it's like, and a lot of the money's come in from clients, but money's also come in from other places too. And I think it's just, I worked on my vibration. How do we want to say? I allowed my vibration to raise. We'll say it that way. Yeah. But it's interesting. This stuff fascinates me. It really does. It really does.
Such a fun world.
It is a fun word. I know. I keep just kind of going back to like the Armageddon visual from there to where you are now and what
Right?
the journey is. It's just so interesting to me. Gosh, and how quickly it can happen too.
Yeah. And
when
you
you
know,
let
and
it.
I really appreciate that you bring that point out, because from where I was when I started this turnaround was not in an empowered place. It was
Ooh,
from
yeah.
a broken place. It was from a dark, hurting kind of a place. And so I know some people are like, oh, well, she's just like, hey, well, we made 250, so let's make 500 and like, let's go from here. But that's not where I was. Am I even worth it to stay on the planet?
Mm.
I just hurt so bad. And so like, there's nothing special about me save my hair and my smile, because they're both huge.
Yeah.
But like, that's where I was. And you can have a really quick turnaround even from that broken place.
Mm.
So and I tell people all the time, I don't care where you are in your journey, you can be in that broken, hurting place and you can transform that really, really quickly. But it really depends. Is it a must, or is it just something that you would like to do someday? And how determined are you to have it and to have life meet you on your terms?
Mm. I have one other question. I have a couple questions and I'm trying to be mindful of time, but I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. If you have a minute or two for a
Yes, I
couple
got
other
a couple
questions.
minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. How do you know if it's not a must for somebody? If you're on the call and you're asking the questions and you're just like, what's the point at which you just say, this really doesn't feel like a must for you? And how do you do that?
Oh, well, I give them the scale, and I
Okay.
tell them what the scale is and where the
Uh-huh.
numbers are and where are you falling on the scale. And
Okay.
then if they're telling me what their fears are, so I'm trying to walk them through their fears. But if they're still at a 4 or a 5 or a 6, then I just tell them, this doesn't really sound like something that is a must for you. Am I picking up on that? Like, this would be
Mhm.
something that would be nice, but it's not really urgent. I'm not really feeling an urgency from you. And they're like, no, it's not. I'm like, awesome. Then we really don't need to continue on this conversation. If it's
Mm.
not urgent for you yet, then it's really not going to help. And so let's just keep the door wide open, and you can reach out in a couple months if anything changes, and let's just see if it might be a better fit at that time.
So good. So good. It was like honey. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah. What for you, wrapping up here, for a woman who's looking to break through, her first 6 figures in income or beyond, what would
Mhm.
you say, like, what's the number one piece of advice you would have for her?
Well, the number one thing I would say, first of all, is that your first 6 figures are your hardest,
Mm.
because it's all about the inner game that you're playing. All right. And so if you're like, this is so hard, yeah, it is, because of who you are. And as you up level who you are and who you're being, then that changes quickly. It took me a little over 2 years to get to my first 6. And then about 2 months, I hit multiple 6.
Wow.
And so the first 6 are your hardest, but to break through it, you need to mentally own it. That's what I would say. My number one piece of advice is be willing to receive it and own it in your mind first and foremost.
Mm.
I see the 6 figures. Yes. Thank you so much. Yes. What a blessing. Look at all of these people that I am serving and that I'm helping. And look how money is blessing my life, because ultimately that's what money is here to do. It's here to bless your life. And the only reason why where money is just given a bad rap all the time is all of the weird beliefs we have around it, and all of the weirdness and the tools for ill that mankind has used with money. But it
Yeah.
is literally here to bless your life. And so I would start mentally owning it, hearing those clients. Yes, thank you so much. Here's my card. I'm so excited to work with you. That's where it starts. You got to
Mm.
mentally own it and be willing to say yes and to step into that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love you so much. This was so, like, every time I talk to you, I feel like I just like went to a spa and had a massage and had to like listen to a Wayne Dyer for a while and oh my gosh, girl. Thank you. Tell us, so clearly people are going to want to connect with you. Tell them where they can find you,
Mhm.
ways they can get deeper involved in working with you, tell them all the things.
Yes. So you can check out my work at AllysonChavez.com. I run challenges regularly. It's called the Prosperity Experience. And I teach you that step by step how to get out of your own way, how to lay down the struggle, manifest your dreams, and love life as you go through a beautiful 5-day experience. It's completely free. It's one of my favorite things to do because I can really serve you at that deeper level. And so you can go to prosperityapproach.com/challenge and you can get signed up for that. And then you'll know when the next one is coming. And like I said, I do them regularly and would love to have you there. You can also join my Prosperity Experience Facebook group. So you'll just go to the Prosperity Experience on Facebook and then just ask to join, and we'll have you in there and just love on you. I'm in there every week doing prosperity tips, and I am all about the practicalities of prosperity. I don't like prosperity theory. I'm like, as you can tell, like, tell me how it actually works in my own life so I can actually use this and create what I want in my life. And so we talk about all of those and the inner games to play, and which really just opens up the magic of life and the miracles of life in just really simple, practical ways. So come join me there. Go check me out at AllysonChavez.com. Join the challenge, prosperityapproach.com/challenge. And let's just play. Let's play together.
I love it. I mean, don't you want to play with this woman? She's so freaking amazing. Girl, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It's good for my soul to connect with you, to learn this from you. And I, as I think back to who I was earlier in my journey, I think I do a lot of this work kind of serving that woman I used to be. And I know if I had had someone like you kind of as a mentor, I think a lot would have been easier and different. And I'm just so grateful to have the experience to connect with you now. It's exciting. So thank you.
And thank you. I love you and value you so much. And thank you so much for trusting me with your audience. I know that's a sacred thing. And so thank you for letting me share and serve your audience today. It has been such an honor and such a pleasure.
Lots of love.